This is Comic Picks by the Glick.
Hey, I'm your host, Jason Glick.
Hey, Jason Glick. Your name's in the title. It's pretty cool. So how you doing, man?
I'm good, Judd, and yourself?
Oh, not bad. What do you got? Is there someone else here?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, we'll introduce him in a second, but I just want to get things started because I mentioned this tonight is going to be talking about the new Shonen Jump title, Spy X Family or Spy Cross Family. It's kind of weird how you're supposed to pronounce that, but even though Japan probably calls it Spy Cross Family, I think it's like Spy X Family because it's not super popular yet, but it could be because as far as Shonen Jump series go. This is a series that's been topping on the popularity polls in Japan, and I've been reading about its success on Anime News Network for over a year now. So once the first volume came out here in the U.S., I thought, okay, I'm going to read this just to see if it's up my alley. Then I read it, and I realized, yeah, you know what? I think I might need some additional perspectives on this, just to say am I getting too old? It's is this just really weird? Or is it's a version of a James Bond, a reality based on James Bond movies, and we're talking the pre-Daniel Craig era. It's just kind of ridiculous. So I'd like to welcome back to the podcast my good friend Myron. Hey, Myron.
Hello.
Hey, Myron. Glad to have you back. And also,
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and also want to welcome Rob, my good friend Rob, back as well too.
Hey, Jason, Myron, John.
Hey.
Howdy.
Yeah,
Hello.
glad to have you back, Rob, as well. So, I think we can all agree that this series feels very reminiscent of old school James Bond. Or if I'm wrong, please let me know now.
I completely forgot about that framing when I was reading this. I know you had said that when we were going into it, and I am so it's so manga anime it doesn't really feel like James Bond to me. I'm sorry to counter you on that, but maybe I wasn't looking at it in the right perspective, and I wasn't really thinking about it at the time. I suppose I could have more to say, but do you want to go into why it feels like James Bond to you?
Basically, it's just got that whole very 80s spy movie feel to it. I mean, because even though the manga doesn't say it, it really feels like it's taking place in 80s East Germany, where it's the government was all up in monitoring its citizens' actions. And just being a very communistic fascist surveillance state. It's this kind of set that we find the main character Twilight, who is basically who's basically our Bond type character. He is the master spy. He is the master of disguise. He gets shit done. We're introduced to him he's basically we're introduced to him after he's shown to have cut the brakes on a diplomat's car, causing him to die. So I mean, he's basically the master spy here. When you think about that, you kind of think you really do kind of think Bond, for me at least. Myron, am I So
you said. I just want to say, you said 80s Bond. Do you think there's a difference between 80s Bond, 70s Bond, and 60s Bond?
Okay, that's a good point, John. Because I mentioned this to you earlier. It's I think that this is a series where if Roger Moore's Bond had read this, he would have read this and go, I think this is quite silly, really.
Well, at least for me, reading into this first mission, I'm a bad student. I haven't finished this whole volume yet, but after reading the first mission, I got more of an Ethan Hunt Mission Impossible vibe when I first read into it, just because seeing how Twilight went about to get the pictures and the information that he went to to gather and infiltrate. And after he disguised himself as the point of contact to get those pictures, and then the actual point of contact came after the fact, and the gentleman who provided the pictures was like, wait, weren't you just here? And he pulled the disguise off, the mask off. It just pulled me back to Mission Impossible 1.
Okay, I definitely see what you're saying there, in the sense that, you know, Mission Impossible is absolutely all about, like, you know, like the disguises and all.
Mm-hmm.
I get what you're saying there. It's like, that's a very valid point. It's like, but just like, I mean, like, the thing is, like, about the series, it's never specified what time frame it's being set in, but it feels like the 80s. I mean, there's no mention of the internet. It's like, there's no, it's like, you know, mention of, like, you know, like computer graphics or whatnot. It feels like, you know, it's like we're like it's being set in a time before, like, you know, the information superhighway like has been established, really.
And I could agree with you there, because, like, I mean, so far from what I've read, I haven't seen any indication that it's taken place in an era where there is, you know, cell phones or modern technology. I mean, a lot of the spy gear that Twilight has is more radio frequency and using, like, cipher coding text. So
yeah, it's like he meets a guy, like, at a train station who actually he sits, they're sitting down next to each other like at a bench, and then the guy gets up and goes meow. And
yeah,
and he's like, oh, this is that's a cipher for this particular mission.
Right, and that's where, and I like that transition on that scene, because he's reading the newspaper, and you see like this text that says hello. So it kind of illustrates and shows that he's ciphering the text for us on what his next mission is. And of course, like, you know, Twilight is that kind of, like, we're introduced as, like, Twilight being, like, the best of his field and the best for his country, and he is cold, calculating, and when his next mission is like, yeah, you need to infiltrate this target, and in order to do that you need to establish a family, and he kind of spits back up, and you're just kind of like, from that vibe, I'm just kind of like, oh, he's not the type of, like, person to get too close to anybody, because just like a Bond or just like any type of super spy, they only get close in order to accomplish the task, not necessarily out of personal humanistic reasonings.
Yeah, but it also kind of feels like a very 80s type thing, in the sense that, you know, like, hey, it's like, you know, this guy who's, like, you know, like a very, very manly type character doing, like, manly things like spying. Well, now he's got to, like, you know, to, like, adapt to, like, this new world, which means starting a family.
Yeah, I agree with you. I get the 80s bit there. The setting, I totally agree that, you know, that it feels like that. I'm not really, like, a big student of history, so when you started talking about the East Germany stuff, then I got it, because when I was reading it, I was more thinking of it along the lines of, like, 1984. With the you know, neighboring states and how they were against each other, and I wasn't really I could connect it to the real world, where that makes more sense.
It's like, you know, same difference, like 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
I guess so.
So it's like, but you know, like, but this kind of, like, leads into the fact that, you know, that our main guy, like Twilight, well, like, who was asked to adopt the alias as Lloyd Forger, wink, wink. It's like, he's like, well, now he's got to, in order, like, his next mission is to help take out the leader of the one of the key like, government officials of this opposing nation. But this official is, like, so, like, you know, private and secretive that he only comes out for, like, school functions relating to his kid. Well, now Twilight has to like, get into this prestigious academy, the Eden Academy. And in order to do that, well, he needs two things: a daughter and a wife. And that's where the series just, you know, kind of goes, which, you know, I'm, you know, on one hand, like, you know, like, I'm fine with, like, you know, series adopting, like, you know, basically like a Bond level reality and all, but this is where the series just kind of makes you go, okay, it requires, like, further suspension of disbelief than I do for, like, you know, like an 80s or 70s style Bond movie, or 90s really Bond movie, because hey, as much as I love Pierce Brosnan stuff, I will say that the Invisible Car definitely required like its own kind of suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
So, but in order to do this, well, it's not just that Forger has to adopt a girl. Well, he doesn't just adopt any girl. He winds up adopting a psychic girl, a telepath, Anya. Which, okay, I mean, it's kind of like that. That's kind of like, this is a thing, like to be sure, and to the mangaka's credit, I think that he kind of like makes this work as best as he can. It's like in the opening chapter, because I guess if you're, depending on how savvy you are to genre conventions, you can kind of see how things are going in the first chapter. But like with Anya, it's kind of like she's kind of like this poor like orphan who was like started off as this like this victim of government experimentation, and then eventually wound up in a foster home, and now she's kind of like just she realizes that, oh, like this guy who's come to adopt someone, oh, it's like he's kind of the spy. I want to be with him. It's like, and I want to be with him because I don't want to go back to being like in a foster home. It's like, wow, this is fascinating, but it's also like really kind of dark and weird as well, I think.
I was a little bit more emotionally drawn to to both characters during this time frame too, because when Twilight went to the orphanage he went basically like to go, quote unquote go shopping. Like it's almost
this is true.
It's almost as if his intent was like, I'm just gonna pick a kid and it is what it is. And he had no emotional tie whatsoever because this is just a mission for him. Anya, on the other hand, with this telepathic ability, and nobody knows that she has this ability, was kind of able to pick up on it and actually do things that Twilight was thinking about to impress him, like in order to have him select her. Like, oh, okay, this girl, wow, she could solve this crossword puzzle, or okay, she seems intelligent. She could probably pass the test, but she might be too short. And then she kind of stood up, and I think that for her, who has gone through multiple foster homes and gone through experiments, like she wants like a genuine family and a genuine place to belong. And the orphanage that she came from was just so run down and ragged. So like when she gets picked up, it's kind of like,
it was a stereotype of stereotypes.
Yeah, I mean it's almost as if like you're happy that she got selected, even though you kind of knew she would be. You're just kind of happy, like, okay, now she has a quote unquote home. But I can already tell from reading this that both of these characters are going to feed off and learn from each other. And even though like Twilight comes off as like a hard ass, like this girl's going to end up, warming up to him eventually.
Yeah. One thing I did like about Anya, and this is more of a metatextual thing, is that it looked like, it's like, well, she's a telepath and she can obviously read their minds. But in the context of the comics, it looked like there are a lot of scenes for me where it looked like she was looking at the text bubbles for the characters,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like she saw what they were thinking in the text, and like just going off of that. And I thought that was really cool and kind of cute as well.
Yeah.
That's funny. I didn't notice that, but now that you say it, I kind of see that around here. And I want to comment on Myron, for only reading, the first chapter. You sure seem to have a depth of understanding of this that I did not pick up on.
Oh, to Jason, when Jason brought this up, I know, I'm very familiar with shonen manga and volumes and how deep they are. And just from reading this first chapter, like Twilight kind of exhumes a Sasuke / I guess Naruto, that kind of vibe where you're introduced to the character and how they are, and and
the
what
cold hard ass.
Not necessarily like the cold hard ass per se, like but you're presented of like who this character is, and I can already spin like this guy is going to go through some learning lessons that is going to change his entire life, not necessarily as him as a spy, but just him as a human being. Because when he has that flashback when he was a child and he was crying and why he ended up becoming a spy, like obviously he has a drive, like he wants to protect others and especially children, so that children don't have to go through the same thing that he has to. And throughout the first mission, he says, "Oh, I hate kids. Like I hate this." Like honestly, like not necessarily you do, but you have a drive about yourself, and this girl is going to be a particular catalyst to your change. And I'm on mission 2, like I'm about to start mission 2, in which he needs to acquire a wife, and I know you're about to touch on this, but I'm on mission 2, and I can already kind of see, kind of like skimming and reading ahead about the woman that will be selected. She might have to go through some type of change or catalyst as well. And so like I'm kind of glad that you brought this series up to me, because I think after Bleach, I wasn't, and actually I take that back. After My Hero Academia, there wasn't really anything I was paying attention to or keeping up with this. But I can kind of agree with you, like after reading this and seeing the artwork and just seeing the layout of how this story is going to play out, I think I'm going to start paying attention to this series now.
Okay. It's like I appreciate how you brought up his the wife character, who shows up in the following chapter after the introduction, because even though it's like, you know, like we talk about, like, the first there's the first chapter. This volume takes like 5 chapters, but the thing is, like, the first chapter is like 70 pages, so it's like it's like a huge chunk of the volume right there. But the thing is with the with like the wife character, who is initially presented as a it's like an office lady type character. It's just initially just working with her, it's like her, you know, very very familiar office type characters. Well, we essentially find out that no, she's got her own secrets as well. In fact, well, it's like while Twilight is a spy, Anya is a telepath. Well, Yor is an assassin. She murders people like just like for someone known as the shopkeeper. And if I was going to say this volume has a big issue, it would be with her character. I mean, it's not that like the idea that, you know, like she's also hiding something, you know, like as the other principal characters are. It's just that the fact that, well, it's like, well, she's a straight up murderer, and I don't think the series, the volume at this point does enough to make it like as quote unquote acceptable as the other characters' personality quirks are, because we find out that, like, when we find out that she's an assassin, well, she just goes to a hotel, like, because she's told to by her boss, murders a bunch of people, washes her hands, and acts really conflicted about it. So it's kind of like, yeah, okay, I get what they're going at right here, but right now it just kind of feels like you just kind of misjudged like the severity of like how this character's actions are going to reflect on the audience as it is. It's like, I mean, like, I imagine there's going to be some kind of reckoning once her like profession is revealed to like Anya. Well, okay, Anya kind of gets it, but Twilight, like, well, he's still kind of in the dark here because he can't read thought bubbles. So, but the real problem with Yor's thing is that the mangaka Tatsuya Endo, well, he's kind of treating it as on the same level, in the sense that, well, like at one point, like, you know, she kind of like at when she's at the party with her coworkers, and she's being suddenly humiliated by them. Well, she's kind of like thinking, oh man, I should just like kill them. It's like, and you're thinking like, whoa, that's kind of extreme right there. And then at one point when Twilight is trying to socialize like her and Anya, as far as like, you know, what this is what us as high class people do, and like, and yours kind of like she's kind of like fetishizing over the knife right there. It's like, oh wow, what is this thing right here? And it's like that's really kind of weird and creepy, and it's kind of like you're trying to like make comedy out of something that really doesn't kind of work, especially in what is essentially a kid's like manga here.
It's interesting that you describe it as when you say it's essentially a kid's manga, because I did start reading it to my 5-year-old daughter.
I'm sure she loved Anya.
And she really was focused on Anya. Yeah, I'm sorry, I assigned that name to for some reason. I was like, no, yeah, she loves Anya. And at some point I had to be like, am I going to, I started editing words, right? There are certain words that I don't want her to know and stuff like that. And then
started having to give it the Princess Bride treatment.
Yeah, there was a point at which, that I think it was that I should murder everybody in the room or something like that. And I showed it to my wife and she's like, you need to skip that page. So, because obviously I should be having a 5-year-old girl read about this. I mean, because the reason she wanted to me to read it to her is because I was reading it silently and I got to this part that I laughed at, and I don't remember what part it was. It was probably, it was something where Anya was reading somebody's thoughts, and so I was like, oh yeah, Iris.
I was like, oh, like, hey, Daddy, this painting has boobies.
No, it wasn't that.
Okay.
No, I don't think I read that to her. So, but I totally get what you're saying about yours, the problematic nature of but when I was reading it, on my own, didn't really even cross my mind, because I guess it's a manga, and I expect stuff like this to be happening. I expect there to be somebody, just killing people like this. Like, okay, and that's part of the comedy, and I'm okay with it because I'm not getting immersed. I'm looking at it as a light, very entertaining read. So I totally see what you're saying, but it didn't bother me as much because I thought it was entertaining to see how Anya reacted to it. How the situation of somebody that is a stone cold killer dealing with raising a child, and there's a part later on where they're moving in, basically Yor is moving into to Twilight's apartment, and Anya is carrying a box full of poisoned weapons.
Yeah.
And so she says to, oh, Anya, no, those are, and she doesn't finish it, but in her head she says, all of my poisoned weapons, and you see Anya looking up because she heard the thought and realizing that she's carrying poisoned weapons.
Yes, it's like, and it's fair that you're bringing this up, because I mean, on one hand, it's like, the average age, the collective age of the people who are like commenting on this manga is close to, say, 160, 170. So I mean, it's like, so I think like Iris's opinion would be valuable here. It's like as well, but I mean, like the latter half of the volume is just kind of like kind of comedy bits like that, just like them trying to learn how to function together as a family unit, and then as they're going to Eden Academy, and then trying to bypass the not bypass, but like game the like the selection process, because this is very silly, because it's like, while Twilight has his own ideas about how to pass things here, they've also got this old English dude who is like all about elegance, and it's like he's just like looking at these people and just thinking, oh, this girl got a 31 on her test, like it's barely passing, so her parents must be of the same level as well. And then he sees them not only like salute the like the statue of the headmaster of the school, but pull this fat kid out from the grate. It's like, and then like after they get they get dirty because they pull them out of the grate because like the grate was really muddy and all. Then they go, oh no, this is no problem because we've also brought a spare change of clothes for this as well. And he's like, oh, this is so elegant. And it's like, yeah, okay. It's like I get what you're doing right here. And like at this point, I felt, God damn, I am really too old for this shit, aren't I?
You mean like you feel that this is not aimed at you at your age range? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's a jump title, so I mean it automatically isn't age range as well. I mean, I guess in that regards, it's like it's like the best jump stuff is kind of like timeless. I mean, the last jump title I followed really well was Assassination Classroom, which was about this like mutant / alien / assassin who basically fell into the inspirational teacher mold. Well, it's kind of like imagine a Silver Age Superman title where Superman blew up the moon, blew up part of the moon, and then said that, hey, in order to keep me from blowing up the rest of the Earth, now you've got the rest. This class I'm going to teach for this next year is going to have to kill me in the meantime. So, like I said, Silver Age Superman,
but not Dr. Stone.
No, not Dr. Stone. Yeah, but I mean that's kind of like for me. It's like I realize that like like I am thoroughly out of the age range for Jump, but at the same time, it's like I realize that like this is something that is like it's kind of like the next generation right here. So like I wanted to get more opinions about this, about how things are going to go. So anyway, so what did you think of the whole selection process like at Eden Academy, Rob?
So I will answer that, but I want to say that I feel like you're neglecting a part of the story that we've talked about. Twilight's motivation for this family, but we have not talked about yours motivation for being part of the family.
Good point. Go for that.
So, yeah, seems to be, like you said, seems to be an office worker, secretly an assassin. The thing is that she has this social pressure from her coworkers who all think she's really weird because she's, 27 or something like that and not married. And
she's an old maid.
Yeah, she's an old maid. And they're saying that, if that people may turn you in and they'll think that you're a spy and they'll, like the state will have you executed or something like that. And so she gets
passes for humor in like not East Germany.
Yes. And so she's worried about that. And then at the same time, she has this little brother that she, for some portion of her life raised, and he's looking out for her, and he's worried about her not having, somebody. So the coworkers invite her to a party. She claims she's going to bring a boyfriend, and her motivation is she has to find a boyfriend for this party. They wind up meeting by chance in a tailor shop, and each respectively look at each other and decide this. This person is going to be the person that I'm gonna use for my needs. So that's the motivation for them getting together. I also remember the reason that I laughed out loud, which is the point at which Lloyd shows up. Which man, I don't want to spoil moments because. But
like Lloyd shows up. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Lloyd makes it to the party, but Lloyd makes it to the party in a state that is kind of like quote unquote not socially acceptable.
Yes,
and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and then they ask for an explanation of why he's in this state.
Because like his job, quote unquote, is he's a psychiatrist and he practices concussive therapy.
And that's why. The moment that left me laugh is made me laugh is he walks in the door. Somebody says, "Are you a professional stuntman or something?" And he goes, "I'm a psychiatrist." And as if that's the answer.
Yes.
So I laughed out loud at that. Anyway, so yeah, I just thought that was an important thing to point out was yours motivation in it. They agree. They agree to solve each other's problems. And the selection process, which is what you asked about, I found very entertaining. I again, manga anime like, I'm not totally in. I've watched more anime than I've read manga. I know that they're kind of, they come from similar.
It's like this is a Jump channel, so I mean, like this is like, remember, like this is the magazine that gave us Dragon Ball, gave us Naruto, so it's like, I mean, like this is like all the really mega popular stuff comes from Jump, so
all the moments with the surprise of the overreacting about the he's not a headmaster, but he's like some guy on this board that's evaluating them, and he's freaking out about, he's convinced that they're beneath him, yet everything they do is filled with grace and refinement, and his overacting is entertaining.
I like the bit where, like, once the animal stampede happens, and like everyone's kind of like, and he's like, well, it's like, whose idea was this? It's like, no, this wasn't mine. Like, wasn't it yours? And it's like, oh my god, this is actually happening. And then and then the Forger family winds up having to intervene in order to stop things. So it's like, and it's ridiculous. It's like, but it's still kind of fun as well. I mean, there's a confidence to the storytelling that helps people over it's like some of the laps, like the gaps in logic that the execution may have. I mean, it's like the even like the way that the volume ends with the family interview. It's kind of like you think that, oh man, it's like he's kind of lost here, but no, like in losing, it's like Lloyd and his family have actually won here, and like that was kind of to be expected, but at the same time, like it was still handled in a fairly satisfying manner, because I mean, like, overall, it's like, I mean, like the series like does play up to convention a lot, and I think that even though like it feels like thoroughly unrealistic. I mean, even like Assassination Classroom, it's like still had like some veneer of groundedness once you got past the fact that it involved like an indestructible teacher with a bunch of tentacles and all. But with this, it's like with Spy X Family, it's like, even though it's like I felt like it was thoroughly unbelievable for a lot of its run. It's like it still managed that confidence that you expect from like the best of a series. The fact that, even if you look at this and you go, man, this is ridiculous and I don't believe it at all, it's like you're still feel compelled to go along with it, like at the same time. At least, like, I mean, it's like for me, so I can respect that, even if I'm reading this first volume and I don't have the same confidence in it that I did with Assassination Classroom, which is kind of like my go-to comparison point here. But that's just me, at least. So, guys.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's like, I guess like we're like, unless we want to put everyone to sleep, I guess it's probably start talking about what is this like did what we read here make us want to invest in volume 2 or whatnot?
I was actually going to open with I'm kind of angry with you for finding something that I was going to have to spend my money on and time on. Although, granted, it didn't cost much; it was only $10. But now I have to follow this because I really loved it. I read the first, I probably read the first 10 pages. It was like, I don't know why Jason wants me to read this. What? It's okay, I guess. And then Anya shows up, and I'm like, okay, I really like this. And then when they completed the family, I love it. I want more.
I guess, like, since Iris is invested in it, then.
Well, I'm probably not going to be reading it to her because, I mean, I read so to a certain point, and it's just there is way too much murder in it. So I don't know that I want her to get used to that.
Too much murder, death, kill. Come on.
Yeah.
No, it's not murder, death, kill. It's mission, deliver, kind.
Yeah. Well, I think it might be safe to say that. Wait, how many volumes are out so far? I don't know the answer to this.
This is
I only saw one.
Only one.
Only one is available in the U.S. Amazon has the first 4 available for pre-order. Volume 1 came out at the beginning of May. Volume 2 will be out in August, and let's see, August or at the end of September. And Volume 3, I think, will be out in December. Okay. So this is a very new Jump series, and we all know that there are some Jump series that are going to run for fucking ever.
Mm-hmm.
This one, yeah, this one's like, I don't know, it's like, given it's like relatively grounded, acidic, grounded I say in air quotes because it's like this is it's like compared to say other long running Jump series it's like good old Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. It's like this one feels like it's probably gonna, if it's going to run for anything, it's going to run probably between the 12 that Death Note ran and the 21 that Assassination Classroom ran for. Just because it doesn't feel like it's got that infinitely expendable setup. But I do think that it does set up some good story, some potentially interesting stories here because it's like they could for all I know they could just run out that initial setup where they deal with that foreign emissary in the next volume, and then they realize, oh, how are we going to stay together? Oh, we're going to find a way, of course.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm sure that there's that they're going to find out that Lloyd is eventually going to find out about yours day job as an assassin, and that Anya is also a telepath. Though it really wouldn't surprise. He could find out that Anya's a telepath in the next volume, or he could just go through the entire series not realizing that at all. That could go as well. But overall, it's like I am kind of invested and interested in seeing how the series goes from here on out. And like I said, assuming it doesn't go for 70 volumes. Well, yeah. I actually bought this volume digitally, so it's that's not really a problem as far as shelf space goes. But Rob, Myron, so you guys invested in volume 2, whatnot?
Well, before they answer that question,
yes, John.
Before they answer that question, I think that in 6 months or 7 months, we could revisit this and see how it looks. But if you have predictions, which you kind of hinted at, it could go this way or that way, you could mention them now. I mean, because, is it going to follow the typical tropes that we're used to, do you think?
It's I would think that if the series is going to go on for a decent length of time, that we're probably going to get to some point where, it subverts expectations. Because if this, all the good Jump series do, it's we reach a point where we realize that, what we originally thought the series was going to be about, well, it's going to be about something else. Right, Myron?
Yeah, I've been biting my tongue and holding my breath because I have this ultra instinct whiskey.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I have this ultra instinct whiskey rant that I was gonna lead up into. So I'm already sold on this series. From what I read so far, I like it. I want to say that first and foremost. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the pictures that I posted up on Skype, but I grew up buying Shonen Jump on a regular basis. Came out weekly for 400 yen, 500 yen, which is about $4 or $5. And when you bought weekly Jump, there's so many comics in one fat thick stack. I mean, you get a chapter at a time.
Mhm.
So you could either buy it weekly and spend that much money, or pick your favorite series and just wait for the volumes, as we did today, going over Spy Cross Family or Spy X Family. When it comes to One Piece, which is one of the most biggest animes, biggest mangas, I appreciate it for what it is, but I don't care to get into it because it goes to what Jason has said. This is one of the most dragged on series that has ever been produced that I have been intimidated to jump into. I think like Dragon Ball hasn't even like drugged that long. Like Dragon Ball, I think
Dragon Ball topped out about like 35, 36 volumes.
Something like that. If I want to go like anime base, it was like 200 something. It was like 250 something episodes. Like when I lived in Okinawa, Dragon Ball, like I started watching Dragon Ball in 1990 and the series ended in like 96, and I'm going based off of that. So I know Shonen has that tendency to want to drag on a long time, but I have to admit that Naruto, as popular as it was, I think was kind of like a nice pace. Bleach was actually kind of like a nice pace, and I don't think Spy Cross Family is going to drag on that long, but I do see it being successful to where like we're going to get a good amount of story, but there's that danger of like dragging a franchise on a bit too long to where you tire out your viewers, or you just have a certain story that you want to tell and get across, and you already kind of have a predetermined plan. Let's say I plan to tell 6 sagas or 7 sagas, and it drags on a certain amount of time. Then if you plan it out that way, like you can actually really tell a compelling story. I kind of see a compelling story here. I mean, based off of like Twilight's past and his kind of introductory to his character, to Anya's past, like the little bit of a past that we got from her being Experiment 007. And
yeah, it's like I saw it's like she was like experiment number 007, and it's like yeah.
I mean, we see we're getting little hints, and from what you're telling me about your like I haven't gotten to that point yet, but obviously you're telling me that Yor has a drive to doing what she does, and each of these individuals have a singularity to their drive and to their story, but now that they're forced in a family environment that it sounds like they necessarily never had before, maybe except for Yor because she has a brother, but not that family unit of a mother, father, child. Like now that they're being driven into I guess you'll call it a nuclear family unit, this is going to cause some type of drive, some type of change in their life to where we can get some more dynamic storytelling, but not to the point where I'm making issue 980. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I sent you guys some images of like a couple of Jump covers, which shows like the most popular franchises, which you're going to see some One Piece, you're going to see My Hero Academia, you're going to see some Naruto, blah, 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 blah. And of these 2 images, I don't see anything of Spy Cross Family, but that series came out like last year. So moving forward, I like this story enough, and I can see where it could go to where we're going to start seeing Twilight or Anya on these covers, because it's going to be a more compelling, more entertaining story to tell. And I'm like you said, Jason and Rob, like, I mean, like you got me into something that I never thought I would get into My Hero Academia, because I'm like all about that right now. And so like buying this, like, okay, like I'm ready to jump into something new. So when a volume 2 does release, I probably will buy that. And it's like, I have a lot of volumes of Shonen Jump. Like I'm looking at my collection right now. I have like 1 through 10 of Shaman King. I have basically almost every Dragon Ball from the time I was like 10 years old to now. Bleach, I have like the first 25 volumes. Naruto, I have the first 20 volumes. Like depending on how many volumes I get into, like, you know, determines like on how much I'm into a series or into a franchise. It's expensive to buy these at times, so I don't have complete sets or complete collections. But if I have more than 3, then that means I'm into it. And so like I'm really interested to see where they go with this series, because these 3 main characters that we're introduced to in volume 1 are going to feed off of each other and grow each other in ways that we weren't introduced to now. And so like Anya being told that she needs to hide her power, eventually she's going to come out with it, and it's going to help them in their missions. Twilight, as much as he's been a solo spy, I feel eventually he's going to have to come out and start to rely on help and allies and a family that he's never really, at least from what we've been introduced, never really been open to in the past. And so I feel like there's so much more to tell in the story. And like Jason knows me when it comes to artwork. I love the artwork in this manga. Like when it comes to like the opening pages in color, introducing like everyone has a secret self they don't show to other people, and not to
very
friends,
Japanese as well,
not to lovers. Like those introductory pages being in color, and you see like Twilight hiding like all his spy stuff, and I'm sorry, what was the woman's name again? You're having these like corpses on her side of the table, and Anya in the middle just kind of looking. Like I just love that introduction right there, and the artwork is just so beautiful. And as you go through this manga and you kind of see like the traditional anime manga like comedy like expressions from Anya when she's kind of getting like, you know, locked into the apartment, or I see you, move out the way, when Twilight's trying to lock her in, like those expressions are just hilarious. So it's got a nice blend of serious shonen action, but then shonen comedy as well. And I honestly, F you, Jason, for making me spend more money.
Yeah.
making me spend more money on something that like, oh crap, like this is just another expense. But this is something I'm really interested to keep my eye on, and I would love to see an anime series come out of this too.
There's going to be
fantastic.
There's going to be an anime series of this at some point. I mean, it's a Jump series that is already established like a reasonable amount of popularity. I think the only thing keeping us from an anime series at this point is that, you know, there's like only 4 or 5 volumes like at this of the series out at this point.
Of course, and of course, as we know, the anime manga formula, of course, like the manga always has to be ahead of what the anime is portraying on television. So.
Yeah, it's like, and I think that, you know, with the way things are right now, it's like they realize that, we don't have to just, you know, keep the anime going. It's like we can actually just like, you know, just adapt like X part of the manga, and then just wait like a couple months until it gets more, and then just adapt that as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably what's going to happen. That's probably what's going to happen with Spy X Family, and so I think that this could very well be the next big thing. And I think that John made a very good point in the sense that, you know, we might want to revisit this like in another 6 months, because like 6 months from now, it's like it's going to be a very different world. It's like, you know, it's like everything all considered. But in 6 months, like the 4 volumes the 3 volumes that have been solicited by Amazon should be out as well. So it's like hey, if you guys just like are like gonna keep reading this, I mean, I'm I'm going to keep reading this because even though like I have kind of like my issues with how they've handled yours characterization and kind of the overall very very silly tone of this volume. I'm like there's like I said, the confidence does win me over, and I kind of want to see where they're going with this as well. And yeah, it's like with most Shonen Jump series, there is kind of a point where it's like it does kind of like just like click in the sense that hey, it's like like this is the point where like the series becomes great. So it's like I want to see if like that does the series get to that point as well. I have a pretty good feeling that I probably will, and I want to see like what happens there. So like another 6 months. So we meet up again in 6 months, y'all.
You know what? I think I'm up for that. And just kind of touching on what you said, and maybe Rob could attest to this to me as well. But growing up, I thought there was never any series that could ever touch Dragon Ball. And then, I got into Naruto and I got into Bleach, and I totally kind of agree with you on like, even though I never read up to that point just yet, but I can kind of understand what you both were coming from regarding yours storyline, where like, just from this volume, you're not necessarily like,
there are issues that need to be overcome. That's what I'm saying.
Like you're not totally sold in which like, okay, there's some issues that need to be overcome, but at least, depending on the writer and depending on, how the story fleshes out, I'm very, from what you guys talked about, I'm very hopeful that this is just that worm in the hook that kind of keeps you wanting to keep buying more and more volumes, and we're going to get those answers and we're going to get that storyline fleshed out in later volumes. So I mean, just alone, like for me that hasn't even gotten to your yet, I'm already invested in Twilight and Anya and what is to be expected from their characters being fleshed out, and just introducing like an assassin who would be quote unquote labeled maybe like the villainous character. Because you remember when Anya got kidnapped by a real life villain, she was like, oh, a real life villain, and they have like a he has the gun with the silencer. Like she's getting exposed to these realities that she's only seen in her favorite anime like Spy Wars, and now she's thrown in a dynamic where her papa is a spy and her mama is an assassin who would be a traditional villain. So I'm really curious to how this dynamic is going to work to where these three are actually the antagonists to this whole storyline.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. But I guess we're getting close to wrapping things up here. So Rob, you got any final thoughts? Like here?
There is one thing that I wanted to say, which is when we were talking about character growth. One of the interesting aspects of it is how Anya, as a telepath, is able to know both of her parents' secrets, and without them knowing that she's a telepath. And when or if they find out she's a telepath, it's going to change things significantly. And so I wonder how long it will take before they do that. It could be a very different book if it goes on, say it only goes on for 5 volumes or something, and they find out at the end, or they find out and then it just changes into a completely new type of book. Is she going to grow up? Are they going to do something like that? Because sometimes they'll keep them the same age or whatever, but if they actually really go a long time with this, the book could become radically different if she grows up as a character.
One thing I noticed in the bonus pages for this first volume is that apparently Anya was a bit older as she was initially conceived.
Yeah.
So it's like it wouldn't surprise me if they decided to keep her this young over the course of the series, because hey, cute is adorable. Yeah. But at the same time, it also wouldn't surprise me if they decided to keep her telepathy secret from the from her parents as well, because that would also that's a big running joke right now.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, it's like, okay, do we want to puncture that right now? It's like, I imagine like it's probably like they could do that, but I don't think it's gonna happen for a while. It's like for a while, if ever, just because like it's kind of a running joke that they can probably just like milk for a good long while, if forever. I mean, for all I know, it's like maybe we'll get like like a follow-up series that just focuses on Anya, like after her parents like have gotten out of the spy game, and like now she's running things herself, and like she's like, it's like she's using her own her own telepathy to be like a master spy herself, without ever having told her parents that, oh, it's like hey, mom and dad, I can actually read minds. So, but that's getting way ahead of things right now. So I think that like she's probably just gonna keep this like stuff secret for a good long while. But as it is, though, it's like I'm invested in reading the next volume. It's like, and I'm also invested in probably just like, hey, just like coming back to roping you guys in. It's like, and John as well, to talk about the series in like another 6 months and all. So,
all right. Well, thanks for joining, guys, and thanks for participating. And we'll definitely do the follow-up episode. So we'll catch you next time on Comic Picks by the Glick.
All right, laters, guys.
Cool. Thanks for having us on again.
Always a pleasure, like John and Myron and Rob.
All right. See ya.